Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is your May 24th edition of the RO Sports Show, brought to you by First Health Orthopedics. I'm your host, Matt Harrelson. Joining us tonight to my right, Bobby Deaver, and of course our usuals to his right, Jeremy McKenzie, and on the other end, Russell Parker. So, the same way we started off the last few show, guys, we're going to continue our NBA playoff coverage, and welcome to the conversation, Bobby. Now, starting off here, the Cavs and the Celtics. We talked about how last week the Celtics jumped out to a 2-0 start. We were wondering, first of all, how did this happen? Second of all, what's going on with the Cavs? Because, they went to 7 with Indiana. We said, is LeBron running out of gas? Then they go and sweep Toronto. We said, all right, LeBron's back. Then they go down 2-0 to the Celtics. We say, all right, maybe LeBron's running out of gas. So then they come back and tie it up 2-2 at home. So first of all here, let me touch on this and get everybody's opinion. Boston Celtics, how did they go up 2-0 first of all, and how are they even in this position without Kyrie?
Boston the entire year has had to rise up above. First it was first Gordon, and then later Josh Gordon. First Gordon Hayward, and then it was Kyrie Irving, and they just have a young core that's been just doing well and they're playing good basketball. How they got to this point is they've having to pick up and depend on each other. Their whole bench kind of deep, and it's kind of the opposite of what's going on in Cleveland, because in Cleveland LeBron can score 45 and they can still lose easily. So and Al Horford has stepped up immensely in the middle, and it's kind of interesting to see they're almost playing a late 90s, early 2000s brand of basketball with him in the middle, being almost not necessarily triangle, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
More zone, less ISO. And it's been interesting to see, and they're a young, good team, and they're got a nice, bright future, and they'll have a nice time watching the playoffs for the rest of the year, though.
And we're talking about how Boston has played kind of more team ball, I guess, since Kyrie got hurt. And Jeremy, let me pose this question to you: how important has, first of all, Jason Tatum and Terry Rozier stepping up and replacing those minutes and points that Kyrie was putting up?
I think it's a great thing, because you know what? It's always say when your superstar player goes down, then you got to be the next person to step up and do what you have to do. And it's already proven that Tatum and Rosen already stepped up and did what they have to do in the playoffs. Because Tatum, putting up 20 points a game, Rosen can put up like at least 15 or 16 and do well, take pressure off Al Horford, who's doing well, pretty much bringing back his old Atlanta-style days. And it just for us that standpoint where they doing playing ball, but I think Boston is getting overconfident right now.
You think so?
Yeah, I think when you go down 2-0, say, okay, we got over LeBron 2-0. Now Cleveland's back, won 2 games back to back. Now that's kind of putting Boston in this like, wait a minute, wait a minute.
Yeah, and that brings my question to you, Russell. Boston goes up 2-0. Of course, we said that at some point they're going to have to go back to Cleveland, and we figured that Cleveland and LeBron would get at least 1 win. They got 2. How important was it for them to get those 2 wins at home and even up this series?
Well, if they didn't get them, they would certainly be on the outside of this playoff looking in, because they got no way of getting back into the championship. So, fortunately, they're still able to keep themselves alive. But I don't know if they can keep going. I know LeBron is a great guy at basketball, but he's got to have his team around him to really help build that up. Yeah. Otherwise, Boston's going to walk away with this one.
Yeah, and sorry, go ahead.
And also, you got to look at this, too. LeBron can't do it, and I kind of look at the few games. LeBron can't do this by himself. Somebody got to step up and start taking pressure off LeBron, so that way he has to carry the whole load.
And if this keeps up, LeBron's out of Cleveland.
You think?
Yeah.
I think one game, I can't remember exactly which one of the 2 that they had won. I think 75% of their points came between Kevin Love and LeBron James. Mm-hmm. And then it was a loss. And I think the rest of the team scored like 15, 20 points in that match.
And obviously that's not going to cut it. Even if they're able to get by Boston, that's definitely not going to cut it whether they face Houston or Golden State.
But Russell has taught me, even though it sounds like he's flip-flopped, to not doubt the King. So I'm not going to doubt him anymore. I thought he'd already be out of the playoffs.
Yeah, I did too. I figured, Philly, but that was a whole other thing, and I regret ever saying any of that. But talking about Houston and Golden State, this one has gone to a tied series at 2-2, which I don't know about you guys. I mean, I even picked Houston to win the West, but for some reason, I'm kind of surprised that they're able to tie it up 2-2. Now, real quick, they played Tuesday night. Houston won 95-92 to tie this up at 2 games apiece. Chris Paul had 27 points. James Harden had 30. They shot 3 of 12 from the. Let me start over. Chris Paul had 27 points. Harden had 30. Eric Gordon had 14 off the bench. Then from Golden State side, KD had 27 and 12. Curry had 28. Klay Thompson only had 10 points, and he shot 3 of 12 from the three-point line. So I think that maybe was the difference maker between those 3 points that they lost by. And then Draymond Green chipped in 11 points and 14 rebounds. So obviously both teams took a lot of shots. Just first of all, how do you think this one ends? We'll start there.
I actually picked Houston to win, and I'm going to flip-flop.
Okay.
All right, the reason is because when I sat there and watched every minute of the game when Houston lost by 40. It was 41 points. And the big thing that got me there was turnovers and panic. Mm-hmm. And when they won the next game, you're going, all right, they're going to do the same thing. D'Antoni is not going to change anything up right now. I mean, when you're sitting down when you're down by 30 points, it shows me he's not going to change anything anytime soon. And they have a nice brand of basketball, but I just don't know if they have. If I'm going to pick three, it's not going to be Gordon, Harden, and Paul. That's a good three to have.
Sure.
But I'm anytime you got a team that's got Durant that can score 40 points, and I've Curry who has struggled the entire playoffs, which kind of helped me pick Houston over the last few games, is he's missed their third quarter. He cannot miss a shot in the third quarter of the past two games. So I think Golden State's going to come out on top, and Houston's going to stick with them. It might be 6-7, but
yeah. All right, Jeremy, what do you think? Because now it's tied 2-2. I mean, Houston's tied it up. Where do you think this one goes?
Like I said last week, this is going to be a game. It's going to be a series where it's going away to Game 7. It's the battle of the egos and also mutual respect for one another. I think what the degree is coming is, like Bobby was saying, you know, Steph Curry been kind of struggling lately, and Klay Thompson ain't been Klay Thompson. And it's kind of like the team, Golden State, the team overall fall in the hands of Kevin Durant. And I think where it's coming to where now is who wants it more.
Okay. And I've been saying for a few weeks now that I feel like Golden State has some kind of weakness. And again, I've been saying that and also saying that I'm not sure what it is. It's kind of a gut feeling. And I feel like that vulnerability that I've been talking about is shown here against Houston. So what about you, Russell? I mean, do you think Golden State's going to be able to pull it out, or is it Houston's year?
Well, Bobby, you mentioned that Houston lost by 41 points, but we're also forgetting that Golden State lost to Houston by 22 points. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty big for Golden State to lose by that many, I believe, for the prestige that their team is.
Especially since they were up by 10, I believe, at halftime. So you're right, that's about 30 points there.
So, in my opinion, I think Houston's got Golden State here a little bit. They kind of came back in the fourth game here. Of course, they won that one by a few points, but I still think Golden State's going to come out on top, but I think Houston's going to continue to give them a run for their money and make it a best of 7.
Mm-hmm. I started picking Houston, and obviously I'm going to stick with them, especially now that I've seen that this isn't going to be a runaway by the Warriors. I feel a little bit better about it. I was worried coming in that Golden State would be Golden State, and they would not maybe sweep them, but knock them out in 5, maybe 6 games. But obviously, that's not going to be the case as we sit right now. So that made me feel a little bit better about picking the Rockets. So I'm going to stick with them.
And you can be absolutely right as long as Houston doesn't turn over the ball, because they run ISO basketball. They have to dribble the ball a lot,
yes.
and so they don't like passing when they're doing that. They're trying to set the ISO off the pick and roll. So if they don't turn the ball over, they have a great chance to go the way and even beat Golden State. And this is going to be the best series of the whole playoffs. I mean, I don't even think the NBA championship is not going to be good as this series.
I was going to say, it's almost like this is the NBA Finals game. So
yeah,
we say
one
that.
thing's for certain though, next week we should have our finals.
We will, yes. By this time next week, we will be able to tell you who's going to be playing for the NBA Finals. So as of right now, I'm going to take Houston. I'm going to take the Cavs. Who are you taking?
Golden State.
I got Houston.
Golden State.
All right, and I said Houston and the Cavs. I'm going to stick with Houston. Just because I didn't have the Cavs here to begin with.
Should have done that with my original
I just don't like Golden State.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're getting kind of Warriors fatigue, kind of the same way we see the Patriots in football. Of course, you probably could say the same thing about the Cavs, too. So, anyway, we'll move on from NBA talk and continue, or NBA playoff talk, and continue with some more fallout from the NBA draft lottery. As we know now, the Phoenix Suns are going to be picking first. They finished 2017/18 season with a 21-61 record, which got them the highest number of ping pong balls. Like I said, they're going to have the number 1 pick. They missed the playoffs this year for the 8th straight season. So, Suns GM Ryan McDonough has told ESPN that he would consider including the draft's top selection in the right deal. Would have to be for an NBA star, is what he said. So, Do you think this is a smart move for them to go this route?
Whenever you have a #1 pick in any draft, you always say we're willing to trade it down and see what you get. I mean, the Hornets got offered a ridiculous amount of like 8 picks for where they ended up picking Frank
Kaminsky
a few years ago. So if somebody's going to offer the Hornets that in the middle of the first round, somebody might offer the Suns something crazy. But that's the only way they're going to take it. Otherwise, if they're going to build a franchise, you see how Philly's done it. It's getting these young players at a young age and then trying to hold on to them.
What do you think, Jeremy? Should they trade this pick away, or should they keep it and go for the couple guys we talked about last week, one of those being Arizona's big man, DeAndre Ayton, who literally plays right down the road? Which path do you think they should take?
I think Arizona ought to keep it because you could build your franchise through your draft, and then you got a lot of salary cap where you can go out the big time NBA free agent and just probably could form a big three.
All right, Russell, what do you think? Because the Suns, in addition to this, they have some money to spend.
Yes.
So should they trade this pick for an NBA star, or should they continue down the path they are for the draft and maybe try to sign a big-time star?
Well, I'd say if you got the #1 pick, you need to keep it. Don't lose it. That's right there giving you opportunity to pick what you believe is the best player, and you take that chance.
I'm going to say that they should keep the pick with the caveat that it also depends on who they might get back in a trade. I think there's obviously a cutoff of names to where if you're their GM, you'd have to say, all right, I would take this guy and above for this pick, but nobody below that. And I guarantee you they do stuff like that. Now, I don't know where that cutoff would be for the Suns because they already have a superstar in the making in Devin Booker. Last year they drafted Josh Jackson out of Kansas, so he's supposed to be a budding superstar. So, maybe they stick with this Ayton pick and, like you said, build a foundation for the future. But again, I mean, this isn't going to happen. But let's say, the Cavs say, we'll give you LeBron for that #1 pick. You pull that trigger, right? Right? That's an obvious one, right? Okay, so what if they offer you Blake Griffin? Do you pull that trigger?
With a couple of draft picks.
Okay, so that's what I'm talking about. At that point, you're even moving down that far down the list.
Even if it's a future unprotected or something like that.
Yeah, because even if you trade for Blake Griffin, you asking for two first-round picks and cash.
So the line is somewhere between LeBron and Blake Griffin.
No, I'm just saying, if you're going to trade for somebody that high, yeah.
Okay, that's kind of what I was getting at. But in addition to DeAndre Ayton, another big name that's supposedly going to go at least 1 or 2 unless a trade is made is Luka Doncic, who is from Europe. We've heard a lot about this kid. He's only 19 years old. First of all, he just helped Slovenia win its first European championship earlier this year. Over the weekend, he also added a EuroLeague title, a EuroLeague MVP, and a Final Four MVP award. Again, this guy's only 19 years old. Obviously, his ceiling is through the roof. Is Ayton better than him? And second question would be, the Kings pick second, the Hawks pick third. Does he make it past Sacramento?
I just don't see how, because you're looking at someone who doesn't have to go to class. He doesn't have college in his way. He plays nothing but basketball against other professionals. It's not NBA talent, but obviously NBA talent goes back and forth through Europe, or at least it has in the past. You would have to take him in the top 5. I don't see how he would. How would you let a 19-year-old who's 6'6", with that much playing experience and that much motivation to play just slip through your fingers? I don't see it happening.
He's almost, this is just my opinion, but he's almost like a poor man's Dirk Nowitzki. He's not as tall, but he's got the same skill set. What do you think, Jeremy? Should the Kings take him with second, or should they pass on him? I mean, or maybe even they trade away a pick. I mean, where's this guy end up?
I could think it's a scenario where he could actually go to Sacramento or go to Atlanta to become a building franchise player, and then at the same time you can pretty much build your talent around him through free agency and draft.
And Atlanta has had some success recently. Sacramento, not so much. I feel like they're one of those franchises that's always up there at the top of the draft. They've been trying for what feels like since Chris Webber left to build another solid team.
The curse of the West.
Yeah, because you remember I remember when Sacramento, if you look at the days of Pavel Stojakovic, Chris Webber, Divac, and Mike Bibby and Doug Christie, see, those days are long gone. Because I remember watching them for years, and they just couldn't get over the hump beating LA when you had Kobe and Shaq. But as time progresses, it's like the Kings have been in decline.
Yeah, and I say all that too, but Russell, this kid, is as good as he is, and is kind of a downtrodden franchise as the Kings are, could this kid put them over the top finally?
Well, I think it's a good idea to pick him up. I'm gonna play devil's advocate here and say that they need to get somebody who has some education on him that will understand not just how to play basketball, but also kind of I'm not saying anything against him about not having that type of situation, but someone who can understand, respect for somebody. He might come out there, he's 19 years old, very, very young. Probably does not know how to take a huge crowd like someone out there in the NBA can do. So I can see that being a lot of pressure on him. And not only that, but, not being in that high caliber matches like you can find in college. So I don't think he's really there ready for NBA.
And, you mentioned the talent over there not being as good as the NBA. But, Bobby, aren't we seeing more and more guys from Europe come over to the NBA?
Oh yeah. I mean, definitely. Over like the past 5 or 6 years, I think we've had one in the top 10 at least just about every year. It's kind of a constant. So they do have talent going back. Actually, Asia's picking up. Their basketball is picking up steam, where they're actually getting up pros start coming over here a little bit more. So I mean, I think it'll be less Russell of a transition. I mean, as far as European compared to somebody from Florida or here, I'm not sure how to compare that. Never been to Europe. You know what I'm saying? But the first thing you got to do before we even go on this conversation, he's really got to declare. Or we might be having this conversation next year.
That's true. You're right. I just kind of, and I hate to assume, but I just kind of feel like he's never going to go higher than 2. I don't think, or his stock's never really going to be higher than it is right now. I can't imagine a scenario where he doesn't come out and declare.
Right now, it's about the dollar signs and who's whispering in his ear and who's got them. Because I mean, I'm pretty sure he can make a lot of European money off of advertisements as well. And he's already just won a championship, so it kind of depends on where he goes. He's not gonna make NBA money.
No,
but
exactly.
I can see it come to Spurs.
Yeah. Well, he ain't making it to the Spurs unless y'all trade up. But some more quick draft talk here. Trae Young, who was the very dynamic Oklahoma guard from last year, who nobody really heard about before the season started. True freshman, comes out and lights it up. 30 points a game. People were comparing him to Steph Curry already. He's come out and said that he feels like not only is he the best shooter in the draft, but he's the best player in the draft. Would you concur with this?
I would not, but I do think the mindset's good for anybody in the NBA. I mean, you're only 5 starters. You have to think you're the best player or the best person at your position. And I think a lot more young players are getting that mentality. They're coming out at 18, 19 anyway. They're not staying in college long.
Right.
So, 19, 20. So I think the mentality is good for him, and he'll have a nice, humbling experience when he gets drafted. But he can definitely have a career as an excellent shooter.
And, Russell, let me ask you this, and I'll come back to you, Jeremy. This kid scored 30 points, averaged 30 points in college. Is he going to be able to do that in the NBA?
Probably not right off the bat. It probably will take some time to get there, because there's such high competition already in the NBA. It's going to be very difficult to do that, especially if you play somebody who's got that caliber like LeBron or anyone else of his caliber. So.
Right. And then, Jeremy, I want to ask you this. Trae Young, where does he fall in the draft? Is there any way he falls out of the top 10?
I think he'll stay in the top 10 because he's always in need for point guards and shooting guards. I can see him in a scenario where he could go to Charlotte.
Yeah.
And him and Kemba Walker make a 1-2 punch combo.
I see him having a very high ceiling. I see his floor as being a top 6 man off the bench, leading the second unit kind of thing. I think that's the bottom rung for him, which goes to show you, just in my opinion, how talented I think he is. Another one of these young guys who's come out and has that same mentality is Michael Porter Jr. He's a kid we talked about a few weeks ago. Came out of high school, was the #1 recruit, went to Missouri. Ended up missing the vast majority of the season after having back surgery. We sat here and had a debate whether he should play any games or just sit the rest of it out and wait for this moment. First of all, he's come out and said he should be the top player in the draft. Not the best player. He thinks he should be the #1 pick. Again, do you concur?
Well, no. He just had everything coming out of high school, and he won every award possible they could possibly win. And then he gets hurt in his freshman year. I like the mindset. And what's going to be interesting between Trae Young and himself is they don't get their expectations, is how they answer to that. You know what I'm saying? You can't have Aaron Rodgers without him slipping to go to the Packers and then him wanting to answer back of why he wasn't taking so long. So if he does slip because he was hurt and he's been through adversity, I think that kind of helps him out a little bit because he's being doubted. He has something to prove. He's got something on his shoulder. So it might work out good for him, but if he hits roadblocks, we'll see how he goes.
And Russell, do you think that him having back surgery, which is even for a young guy is no small thing, and missing most of the season, is that going to hurt his draft stock?
Yeah, I think it will a little bit. I mean, you've got to take into account that he's hurt. Is he going to be able to get back out there again? If something goes wrong with the surgery where he can't go out and play again, you take a chance on paying for that player, and then you can't even use him, and he's going to get kicked out eventually. So, I don't know. I think he'll be okay. getting into it, but I don't know about right now. You know.
Right, and you know, he was cleared by doctors before the season ended. Matter of fact, I think he ended up playing maybe 1 or 2 regular season games, and I think maybe they made the tournament, but I think they were knocked out first round, so we really didn't get to see a whole lot of what he offered on the college level. But Jeremy, let me ask you this: same way I asked you about Trae Young, does Michael Porter, even after coming off a big injury, does he slip out of the top 10?
I believe he will, because not only that, with the back injury, it's going to come a scenario where a team that take a chance on him, like, they can look at him as damaged goods.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can, like, the best player, you could be the best player in your position, but at the same time, because of your injury, they looking at it like they got to take precaution, because if something goes down, then what else?
Yeah.
What do y'all think is, like, the segue between, is he going to be a risk because he's hurt, or wow, I can't believe he's still here on our board, we got to take him?
I think, again, when I was talking about the line between LeBron and Blake Griffin, I think there is a line on the draft board, too, to where you say, at this point, we have to take him, or at this point, it's not worth risk management to do that. And I'm not sure. I'm sure each team and GM's line is at a different spot, but that's how I would assess the situation.
I mean, it might not even be the worst for him. I think Cleveland's picking 8th.
Yeah, they are.
You know what I'm saying?
And matter of fact, I've seen quite a few big boards that have them taking Porter, which again, you know,
want to be on the Suns? You want to be playing with LeBron?
Depends on what happens with LeBron. If LeBron
yeah.
leaves, does Michael Porter all of a sudden become the man in Cleveland?
Could you imagine if nobody wants him, and then all of a sudden Charlotte say, "Okay, we'll take a chance on him"?
Well, that'll be
well, that's at 11, which is not out of the order. I mean, you know, that's not crazy.
10,
yeah. But again, and I don't want to get into a rant here, but again, talking about the Hornets being at 11, since you weren't here last week, they're kind of stuck right there in the middle again of not having a top draft pick, not making the playoffs.
Yeah, the NBA.
How aggravating is that?
It's hard, because the pride of being a Hornets fan is, well, at least we're trying to compete. And then you hear about the mixed trades and things going there. But because I've always argued with this in basketball is, do you want your team to be like, all right, we're going to have to be bad for 5 or 6 years, and we're going to tank it. We're going to pull a Philly. Or do you want to be like, hey, at least we're trying to put a team out there in the East that can be in the playoffs?
Yeah, but see, for me, I would be okay with them saying we're going to tank for 4 or 5, 6 years, whatever it is, if the outcome in the long run is going to be sustainable championship runs.
Maybe because it's the ping pong balls, and Charlotte does not have the luck. They've had second and third and fourth and fifth picks so often that them losing does not even matter.
No, well,
it's like my argument of saying do away with that and just do a standard draft like the NFL does.
Yeah.
Well, then you know you can tank, and that's what's scary.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why they probably haven't gotten away from that system. But again, teams are still tanking.
Yeah, exactly.
Look at the Suns. But again, you know, with Philly, you had to trust the process, and now they didn't get as far as I was hoping they would, but still, they had a great season, and I would be okay if Charlotte broke it down and started over, and if 5 years from now we're able to consistently make the playoffs every year, I would trade that.
In fairness, that's what they thought in the beginning when they were getting it was Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, Walker, and Zeller, and that's what they thought they were doing.
Jake Lamb.
It just didn't feel.
And they had, and I remember even when they were the Bobcats, they had opportunities where they had like, well, we want to go for this person, or go for this person.
Yeah, and they got Kamitsky, who to me is just kind of a rotation guy.
Mm-hmm.
Malik Monk last year, I think he's got some superstar in him.
Yeah.
We'll have to wait and see on him. But then in big boards so far, I've seen the Hornets possibly taking Miles Bridges from Michigan State. And I'm thinking to myself, these are all the same players. Why are we getting the same player over and over and over?
Yeah.
Let's go look for a big man or a point guard or something.
We need or you can bring a superstar in the making, would not have you.
First draft with a new GM.
I was about to say, the difference is Rick Cho's not doing it this year. It's going to be Mitch Kupchak. So again, you're interested to see,
he might look for another Kobe Bryant. Just don't let him get away.
Don't let him get away. Don't get me started on that. But we're going to end the NBA talk on that note before I get all heated about Kobe and the Hornets. But when we come back from the break, we're going to get into some NFL talk. We're going to talk about some position battles that are going on as we get into OTAs and, of course, practices throughout the summer. And then we're also going to talk about some big guys that are missing from OTAs and whether that's a big deal or not. So all of that and more when we come back from the RO Sports Show.
Rockingham Farm Supply in downtown Rockingham at the corner of 220 and Green Street's a great place to stop by and have some fellowship and fun. pick up your dog food, seed, even chicks for your farm, a little bit of everything, and a great selection of zero-turn lawnmowers and other lawn care products. Stop by and visit the local family-friendly atmosphere at Rockingham Farm Supply. Again, that's Rockingham Farm Supply, corner of 220 and Green Street in downtown Rockingham.
At Richmond Community College, we can prepare you for a high-skill, high-paying career in a variety of fields. From business to education, engineering, utilities, healthcare, criminal justice, information technology, and human services. At Richmond Community College, we can save you thousands of dollars on tuition through our university transfer programs that provide a seamless transition to universities and colleges throughout North Carolina. At Richmond Community College, we are always developing new courses and programs in response to the communities we serve. We offer day, evening, and online courses, and you can now complete 5 curriculum programs entirely online. At Richmond Community College, we believe in helping you prepare for a better life. Richmond Community College. Local college, big impact.
Exit Realty Platinum in Rockingham has listed one of the most beautiful homes in Richmond County. Located in Rockingham on Ledbetter Lake, the home features 4 bedrooms with bamboo floors and a kitchen featuring stainless steel appliances and granite countertops, and a master bedroom that overlooks Ledbetter Lake, along with a spacious tile shower and the attached master bathroom. The open living space leads to the back deck with a perfect view of Ledbetter Lake, and the property features its own boat dock. Want to see this beautiful home? Call Nicole Hayden with Exit Realty Platinum, your source for homes in Richmond and Moore counties.
My name is Jim Leach, and we have been using the Tim Hayden Construction Company for the last several years.
My name is Dave Owens and my wife Beth. We had some damage here at our place in Knollwood Village.
January 2nd, our house flooded upstairs coming through to the first floor.
Tim has responded very quickly with his team of people.
Our repairs went extremely well.
Tim made a very difficult situation much easier for us.
And welcome back to the RO Sports Show, brought to you by First Health Orthopedics. And as I mentioned before the break, guys, we're going to get into some NFL talk. Of course, the NFL season will be here before you know it.
Yes.
In the meantime and in between time, we've got some position battles to discuss here. Of course, right now is the time of the year where they start to try to work some of these battles out and figure out who's going to be your starter. So let's start with the New York Jets. Now, obviously, they've got a quarterback logjam, if you will. As of right now, their 3 starting quarterbacks are Teddy Bridgewater, Josh McCown, and of course they just drafted Sam Darnold in this past NFL draft. They also, this week, actually I think just a couple of days ago, traded Christian Hackenberg to the Raiders. Of course, I don't think he even had a shot at starting, but that was just another quarterback they were able to pull off of their roster.
Traded.
Yeah, traded him for like a 7th round draft pick. I mean, it was a very minor deal. But between Bridgewater, McCown, and Darnold, who starts the season? Let's start with you.
As long as he stays healthy, Bridgewater.
Okay.
I mean, because I see how McCown could be when you have a young quarterback like that, he's probably going to start at the end of the year if your team struggles. But if they can get some wins under their belt, Bridgewater's trying to rebuild his career, I can see where he can win it out.
All right, what do you think, Jeremy? Who's going to start the season?
I'll go with what you have in Josh McCown, who has proven to be not only a backup but also be a serviceable starter for you. Had done well in stats last year. I can see a situation where Teddy Bridgewater could be number 2. Could be a server backup if Josh McCown do go down, and Sam Darnold, who could more like carry the clipboard for the year and learn the system.
I'm going to go, since you guys took those 2, I'm going to take Sam Darnold, which I was going to do anyway. Teddy Bridgewater to me is damaged goods. Josh McCown's getting up there. The New York Jets aren't making the playoffs this year. I think might as well start the rookie and see what he's made of. So I'm going to take Sam Darnold to start the season off.
Are they going to keep 3? One's probably going to go, and it ain't going to be the rook.
No, it won't be him. Which is why I think in the long run it'll unfortunately probably be Bridgewater. But again, it'll depend on whether he can stay healthy. Moving on, the Denver Broncos have a couple of running backs, and of course in the NFL you can have multiple running backs, but I want to get you guys who you think is going to be the number 1 guy here. Devontae Booker, who is from the University of Utah, was on the team last year when they dropped C.J. Anderson. This guy took over and literally ran with it. So is it going to be him, or is it going to be the running back Royce Freeman that they just drafted this past spring in the 3rd round from Oregon? Freeman or Booker?
I'm going to go with Booker.
Go with Booker.
Yeah, I'm going to take Booker too, just because he's the established guy. Freeman, Booker's only a year older than him.
They're going to spell him.
I was going to say I could definitely see this being a two-headed monster, but just opening game, first touch, I think it's going to be Booker as well. Moving on, now, of course, the Cowboys let Dez Bryant go, so they've been in the need for a wide receiver. Right now, they traded for Tavon Austin, who, of course, was with the Rams. So they've got Tavon Austin. They signed Alan Hearns, formerly of the Jaguars, and Deontay Thompson, who I'm going to be honest with you guys, I don't know him. But
Deontay Thompson, who was originally drafted by the Raiders, played for the Bills, and also played for the Chicago Bears last season.
Well, there you go. So now we know who that is. But between these three guys, who's going to replace Dez?
Oh, well, I think it's going to be Trayvon. It's just going to be interesting to see whether he can just be the number one guy. I mean, that's what I mean. In Dallas, be the number one guy. That's the big thing.
Right, because he didn't seem to be able to grasp it when they were in St. Louis.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think it's coming a scenario where you have Alan Hearns because I think he has a lot to prove from had an injuries-prone season, and I think to be him in a new system in Dallas under Scott Linehan, who's offensive coordinator, who could come in and probably put up some numbers for you. I can see Tavon Austin at 5'8". He could probably come in and play in the slot for you and put up some numbers for you in the running back wildcat situations, and I can see your number 2 in Terrence Williams.
Tavon Austin to me is one of the fastest guys in the league, but he hasn't been able to establish himself as the number one guy so far, I don't think. So I'm going to go with Alan Hearns. I think he was a little more established of a wide receiver in Jacksonville, and I don't know the stats, but if I had to bet, I would say he probably had better stats than Austin as well. Moving on, back to the quarterback battles. The Buffalo Bills, just like the Jets up there in New York, have 3 quarterbacks, one of which was drafted. First of all, you've got A.J. McCarron, formerly of the Bengals, that they traded for. You've also got Nathan Peterman, who they drafted out of the University of Pittsburgh a few years ago. Of course, we now know he came in for Tyrod Taylor last year. I threw like 7 interceptions.
He set an NFL record for
Yeah, it was like one of the worst performances in all time. And then, of course, they drafted Josh Allen out of Wyoming. So, same thing I asked you about the Jets. Who's starting here day one?
And I think Josh Allen's got this one. I think it's a little bit different situation than the Jets. I mean, that's not – you don't have 2 established guys that you know who can at least carry you half a season if they don't get hurt. But, you know what I'm saying? I think he can win this one out.
Okay.
I think go with the rookie this year because I feel like Josh Allen, bring him in, do what he needs to do. A.J. McCarron, I think he's more of a cerebral number 2 guy. Nate Peterman, let him carry the clipboard as number 3.
I think it's safe to say none of us were picking Nathan Peterman. Because of the same things I said about the Jets, on the other flip of that coin, I'm not going to take the rookie. I'm going to take A.J. McCarron because I feel like the Bills are closer to fighting for a playoff spot than the Jets are, which is why I wouldn't necessarily start the rookie. Of course, I
say that every year, though.
Yeah, but I said day one, who's taking the first snaps? Yeah. I think it's going to be A.J. McCarron because I think he deserves to have his chance to be a starter. He's never really been able to do that since he was at Alabama because obviously Andy Dalton's been in Cincinnati. So I think potentially this could be his time to shine. Moving on, of course, the Arizona Cardinals have been looking for a quarterback. Now, they traded for Sam Bradford. And then they also drafted a quarterback, Josh Rosen from UCLA. So who starts here day one?
Bradford.
All right.
Go with Bradford.
Yeah, it's probably going to be Bradford, although maybe we can all agree he ain't finishing the season as the quarterback.
No, that's not going to happen.
Because it's almost a given that Bradford's going to get hurt at some point.
Yeah, because it was like I agree with you because it's going to get to a scenario where Bradford might, in week 5 or week 6 or so, he'll get hurt and go throw in the rookie. And the rookie Rosen that comes in, do well, push him for a playoff spot.
Yeah, and I think
he's a starter.
I think out of all of the quarterbacks that were drafted, and if you guys disagree, of course, tell me. But I think Josh Rosen has the best chance to succeed in Arizona, and I think he's going to get a chance probably sooner rather than later than these other guys.
Better team as a weaker division. I mean, all 4 in the division can win the division as well.
Sure. Well, because you look at the NFC West, it's getting a lot weaker, but you already know who's pretty much going to be the predominant nonsense.
It's the Rams. Yeah.
It's the Rams because San Francisco's rebuilding, Arizona's rebuilding, and Seattle's pretty much got to the point where now they're getting to that close to that rebuilding mode.
Yeah.
Well, don't tell 49ers fans that because I've been hearing in my ear.
Yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo is like the next coming of Joe Montana.
Bye.
Now, I was talking about quarterbacks that were drafted. I think Josh Rosen will have the best chance of succeeding. That also includes the next guy we're going to talk about with the Browns quarterback situation, Tyrod Taylor or Baker Mayfield. First of all, who starts the season?
I would start Tyrod Taylor, but I really think it's going to be Baker Mayfield.
Okay.
Go with Tyrod Taylor.
But do you think Manziel? Hello, you think Mayfield? You think Baker Mayfield ends up coming in and playing?
I believe he'll come in during the season, play some snaps, whatnot have you. But if a situation where Tyrod Taylor get hurt, or if he having poor games, throw him in there.
See, I look at Tyrod as just another serviceable quarterback that the Browns are going to plug in, hoping that Mayfield will be the guy, just like Manziel they were hoping would be, and so many other quarterbacks before that.
But they went through an overhaul, and the Browns do look on paper like a better team.
They do. I mean, they got Jarvis Landry on the outside, which is, of course, they still got
Josh Gordon, and Corey Coleman in the slot, and then at the same time, the question you have is, Joe Thomas retired, so who's going to take over your blind side area? And your defense is pretty young, and they are very competitive.
I like the Browns. My only critique of it is I never thought they should take Mayfield for number 1.
Right.
I mean, that's what a lot of people kind of.
They could have got him at 4.
So that's what kind of threw me off about the whole pick.
I agree. And then finally, looking at position battles, the Carolina Panthers. It feels like since Kelvin Benjamin left, they've been looking for a wide receiver. That's still the case. Right now, Devin Funchess took over. Yeah, actually, Steve Smith, you're right. But Devin Funchess took over when Kelvin Benjamin went to the Buffalo Bills. They signed Torrey Smith, who's getting up there in age, to be one of the wide receivers. And then, of course, they just drafted DJ Moore, the wide receiver, out of Maryland. So does Funchess continue to be the man, or is it time to turn it over to DJ Moore?
Well, I mean, I don't think he'll start. If you're talking about starting the season, though, I think he'll start off at number 1. But they might find him a place in number 2. With this group of receivers, especially when you got a running back like McCaffrey coming out, they're going to mix and match those guys.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to have a dedicated lining up for every play in the same position.
You know who the offensive coordinator is.
It might be a man named Norv Turner.
Yes.
He loves to spread things around and mix it up with receivers.
Yes, and I see a situation in Carolina where we're looking at. Don't forget you got Greg Olsen in the tight end slot. And I seen McCaffrey, who pretty much was the second league in receptions last year. Like I told everybody before his career's over, he's going to be a wide receiver like his father was in Denver and San Francisco. I think to this case where McCaffrey could come out a better than a Wes Welker.
He very well could, because you think about it, he's not the biggest running back, and you think after a little while he's going to be like, all right, I'm done with this. I don't want to run the ball anymore.
I want to catch some balls.
Yeah, I want to catch the ball.
And that comes a scenario where you got Funchess at number 1. I could see pretty much DJ Moore at number 2. And then don't forget you got DJ Moore in the slot at number 3. And then you're looking at number 4, who pretty much, I tell people all the time, y'all better look out for a guy by the name of Damian Berg.
Yeah.
Because he can fly, and he came big for us in that Green Bay game. And I think to a scenario, if Cam throws the ball him a little bit more and he gets more involved in the offense, I think Damian Berg could become a steal.
I've got Devin Funchess being the 1. He's a big, tall guy. I've got DJ Moore in the 2, and then I've got Torrey Smith coming out of the slot. And then if you need a tight end, of course, you've got Olsen there if you need to spread out. And, of course, McCaffrey, again, move him all over the field, especially while he's still young.
It sounds a lot like when we had Moose on one side and then we had Smith on the other, and then we had a good slot receiver who's lost a couple steps. Well, I like it.
Same scenario. Maybe that's what they're trying to get back to. So, but, again, talking about position battles, we're going to move on to the fact that we are in OTAs, which are voluntary. So I want to throw that out there. So
practice.
Of course, none of these guys technically.
Jim Moore, Coach Jim Moore from the line,
they never actually. These guys don't actually have to be there.
Between him and Iverson,
it looks good, obviously, if you show up. So I want to get some opinions on this. I've got a list of some big name players in the NFL that are currently missing OTAs. So big deal or no deal? Aaron Donald with the Rams.
That's no big deal.
Okay.
No big deal.
All right, I don't think it's a big deal either, and I want to precursor this with most of these have to do with money. So I'm going to say as long as they get him an extension and pay the man, which I don't see why they wouldn't, that's not a big deal. Le'Veon Bell, running back from the Steelers, big deal or not really?
It's becoming a big deal because he's doing this every year, and they're eventually going to have to pay him or let him go or trade him. I mean, it's beginning to.
Yeah, I'd say a big deal because you're a part of the triple offense in Pittsburgh, and it's going to be a scenario. If you don't show up, then they can cut you, or pretty much they might trade you.
Well, he's getting paid either way this year, whether they tag him or not.
But he wants number 1 receiver money running back money.
Yeah,
he's like he wants them together. He's like I do both.
And I've said here a couple weeks ago that I foresee him playing for the Steelers this year, but not in 2019. So, but I agree, it's starting to become a thing. Earl Thomas with the safety from the Seahawks. Is this a big deal?
I would say no because of his age, and he's got a place there. Okay. It might roll into one, but not right now.
Sure.
I don't think it's a big deal because, like Russell said, it's getting to the point where now
That's not Russell.
I mean, Bobby's
I'm not that good looking.
It gets to the point. Not a big deal for Earl Thomas because age, and at the same time, I think he's looking for a new contract or he just want to go somewhere else and play.
Yeah, and I've talked to about here plenty of times about how the Seahawks defense is getting up there in age, and I completely agree. I mean, for him, missing out is not a big deal as long as he comes back when the time is ready. And
that might mean he can last all season.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he knows the defense. He's in charge of it most of the times. Moving on, Julio Jones, of course, the dynamic wide receiver from the Falcons. He's not in OTAs. Is this the big deal or no?
It's the same boat with Earl Thomas. I think they're kind of lumped together. I mean, no deal.
Not a big deal.
Yeah, I'm going to just again say that this one's got to do with money. He wants a big contract, just like all these guys do.
He deserve it.
And he doesn't have a new quarterback.
Right.
So when you're a receiver, you don't have a new quarterback. I can see
it. Speaking of quarterbacks, the Patriots have a couple of big names that are sitting out right now, and I think we might have the same opinion with this, but it's Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski, both missing OTAs. Is this a big deal?
Tom Brady, no. Gronk, maybe. I'm on the fence on that one.
Okay.
Tom Brady, no. Gronk, yes.
I would say yes for Gronk, definitely, because up until recently, he was still mulling retirement.
Yeah.
And I think the longer he sits out from football and has other opportunities outside of the game, plus I'm pretty sure he's set money-wise, he may keep thinking, I really don't want to go back. Tom Brady probably doesn't worry me, but I don't think he's actually committed to the 2018 season either.
The last I heard Bill Belichick say is, we do not talk about players that didn't show up. And then he left it at that.
Which, that's typical.
That's typical him.
Belichick,
so who knows?
Yeah, and I'm sure Brady will be there when it counts. But that one right now maybe has me a little on eggshells if I'm Patriot fans. And then, of course...
Especially since they got rid of your backup.
Right, yeah. And Brian Hoyer's not the Harris, anyway, looking at a hometown guy, Melvin Ingram from the Chargers is sitting out of OTAs. Is this a big deal?
It's a bigger deal. That's young blood, and he needs the reps. But I mean, he's a great player though. So
all right,
I think it's a big deal. He already got paid his money, and I think you need to be a veteran on that. Take a leadership role and be there.
I am going to take up for Melvin and say it's not a big deal because I did a little research on this. He's actually run this by the coaching staff. They're good with it. He's training in another part of the country. I think it's down in Florida or somewhere.
Facility, yeah.
So he's with his own trainers and stuff. So he's actually working out. I probably should have told you guys that.
Without doing research, I thought it was running into a contract dispute thing. Like,
I just wanted to get your
to the preseason or whatever.
No, but he just got an extension last year.
Yeah, he got paid already. So
4 years, $60 million.
It wouldn't have been a contract thing. It's just a matter of, and a lot of guys actually do this where they work out with their own trainers and stuff. So that's what's going on with Melvin. And then to end our NFL talk for this week, of course, David Tepper took over ownership of the Carolina Panthers for a whopping $2.2 billion with a B dollars. Yes, do the pinky. Now, we've talked about this before, about how maybe the city of Charlotte should look into upgrading Bank of America Stadium if they ever want a chance at a WrestleMania, which we talked about, or maybe even a Super Bowl. Obviously, the city maybe wants to do that. David Tepper, he bought this for $2.2 billion. He's worth about $10 billion, so actually $2.2 is nothing for him. I think he told us he paid in cash.
Yeah, he paid in cash.
That must be nice. But, of course, we see all the time that owners that are billionaires come to the cities that their teams play in and end up asking the taxpayers to pay for this. So, my first question for you guys is, him being worth billions of dollars, should he chip in if the need arises to upgrade the stadium or maybe even build a new one?
Well, for one, he's majority owner. There are other owners. It's not just his money in the ring. And teams have been doing this for years as far as when it goes to cities, because it's basically like, we help you out, vice versa, we'll help you out. I don't think he should be held to a different standard, though, because then you'll have more 30 team leaders with only somebody with that barely, what was it, like 30% you have to have, and only 32.
Yeah.
There's a real number there. And this is something that I think Charlotte has held over Richardson's head for as long as I can remember, as far as rebuilding the stadium or doing anything to it, is they knew Richardson was not going to move the team. He wanted it in the Carolinas. He loved Charlotte. He was getting older in age. They were like, he's not going to move the team, so they weren't going to do anything with him. Tipper comes in, he does the right thing. He goes, what's the name of the team? Carolina Panthers. There are two Carolinas.
Right.
And he was sure to point that out. He's like, between the two Carolinas, we'll find a place to put this stadium. So he's put Charlotte on notice, but he said it makes logical sense to be in Charlotte. So that's just playing cards. And I don't think that Charlotte should hold him any different because they have an NFL team.
But let me ask you this, Jeremy. Is it right for him to take that scenario and hold it over the city's head? And we see that all the time, especially before LA got their two teams. They'll say, give us a new deal, we'll remove the team. Is that fair?
No. Because I feel like, to me personally, hey, I think this is a scenario where, hey, this is a scenario where you can ask, you can collaborate with the city of Charlotte, and I can see a renovation of the stadium, a bigger stadium, and whatnot have you. If you want, like you said, we want to host a Super Bowl or WrestleMania, so and so on. But I think that to this degree where, hey, let the man do his job.
Here's the thing: is like, so should Charlotte? What they're saying is, should it be the 50-50 line, or should they put into consideration how much money he's got, and then be like, all right, well, we're not gonna give you a deal. We give another owner because you've made.
I think this is where the Carolina Panthers organization and the city of Charlotte need to collaborate on this project.
Yeah, my only beef with it, though, is I've seen plenty of owners that don't pay for the stadium. Mm-hmm. They make taxpayers pay for it, but then they get all the revenue for it. And to me, that's just not right. And obviously, they don't get all of it. They get a percentage. But I feel like if taxpayers pay for it, they should get the majority of that cut when it comes back, right?
Yeah. The argument from direct revenue is tax revenue through things bought in the city. So every time they have a game or anything going around that stadium, if they have concerts that's in that stadium now, then there's going to be vendors and other people on the outside, restaurants and these other things that are making money off of it. And I think the counter argument to that is, well, if you didn't have this NFL team, you wouldn't have that tax money.
Right, and that's true. And you look at cities like Minneapolis and Atlanta that just built brand new stadiums, and they've already got Super Bowls lined up and probably WrestleManias and NCAA March Madness games and all that stuff. And maybe potentially that would all even out, making money back from that. I still just don't think it's right that you've got these billionaire owners that make the taxpayers pay for it, and then they still get all the parking revenue, all the the tickets, merchandising, all that stuff. And I just want to throw this out there. Just 5 years ago, the city of Charlotte and I guess Mecklenburg County residents paid $87.5 million in updates for Bank of America just 5 years ago. Now, to me, it doesn't really look like they did anything to it. And I think that if they want to host a Super Bowl or a big event like that, they're going to have to build a new stadium. Do you agree?
Well, there's no rule, because I've actually looked it up before because I was in shock, that a Super Bowl cannot be played in a non-dome stadium.
Sure.
I just don't think they're ever going to. We had Richardson, he wanted natural grass, and he did not want a dome. And I think this is going the opposite direction. I think he wants a dome stadium because that's the best chance to get a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to see freak weather, raining it out, or you having a snowstorm. Though the fans, I think, wouldn't mind. They don't want to see that for everything that goes on around the Super Bowl for that whole week. They want the weather to be fine.
They tempted it with New York, though. In the Meadowlands.
Charlotte ain't New York.
Well, that's true, but I'm just saying. I'm just talking about having a stadium with a Super Bowl with no dome, and of course they were lucky that they missed snow and bad weather. I don't know. I just don't think that's like an unprecedented thing. But, I just don't think that first of all, let me say this. I think that if the city were to pony up the money, and I'm not saying they shouldn't, whether they get it from hotel taxes or whatever it may be, a gas tax, whatever, I have no problem with Charlotte or any other city ponying up money for that. I just think that they should be able to get some kickbacks in addition to restaurants that pop up around there and all the circus and festivities, so to speak, that comes with the Super Bowl, with the WrestleMania and all that stuff. I just think there should be some kind of...
It's going to be an interesting fight. It's going to see how it goes down, because right now the reason Charlotte won't get it is because they don't have enough hotel rooms.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they don't have enough hotel rooms in the vicinity of the stadium. I mean, so that's the biggest thing holding them back right now. It's not the actual stadium itself.
Okay, well, let me ask you this then. Let's say...
That's why they built it 75,000 people. They actually built it to possibly get a Super Bowl in the future.
Right.
And now they're having trouble filling it up every week.
But it's uptown.
Yeah.
You've seen stadiums like, just for instance, Dallas' stadium is all the way in Arlington. Mm-hmm. Is there a scenario where they stay the Carolina Panthers, but they move on the outskirts of Charlotte where you can build these giant infrastructures that they're building now that include hotels and restaurants and bars outside the stadium?
I believe that's why he pointed out there's two Carolinas.
That's kind of what I was thinking, too.
He was basically trying to stress the point they're not called the Charlotte
put it in Spartanburg
Panthers.
Or whatever.
Yeah, that's what he was hitting at.
Yeah, okay. Well, and again, you know, I say it all the time. This is one of those wait and see scenarios. We'll have to, because I feel like it's just inevitable before he comes saying, "Hello, Charlotte City Council. I need millions of dollars to at least upgrade the stadium," and I'll be curious to see what.
And we'll know more in June and July because
Yes.
that's when it's finalized.
Yeah,
Exactly.
because they had their annual owners meetings going on.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, hopefully if they do get down the road and they're able to have a Super Bowl, I think that'd be great. I'd definitely try to go to it because very rarely do we have a Super Bowl anywhere near here.
No.
I guess Atlanta is probably the
Atlanta's
closest
probably
one. So it'd be nice to have one right here in the Tar Heel State. But we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking a little NASCAR on the track. We just finished up with the All-Star race, and we're also going to be talking, continue talks rather, about sports betting and some of the repercussions and fallout from all of that legalized betting. So all that and more when we come back from the RO Sports Show.
McNair Auto Sales is the place to buy your pre-owned car, truck, or van. To be the best, it takes big selection, friendly staff, and great pricing. We guarantee a no-hassle buying experience, and financing is available right on site. So come see us today. We're located at 1026 East Broad Avenue in Rockingham. And remember, with over 40 years of experience, you know McNair is the name you can trust.
Family Pharmacy is a local pharmacy that's been in business in Rockingham for over 10 years. Located in the Food Lion Shopping Center on US 1 North, we have easy access into the store and a drive-thru for your convenience as well. You can download the official Family Pharmacy app at myfamilypharmacy.com, and we'll help you set it up to text you when your prescription is ready, and you can even set it up to fill your prescriptions when due. Our motto is we'll treat you like family, and it's something we truly mean. We take the same care in filling your prescription that we would take for our own family. Family Pharmacy, we'll treat you like family.
Willow Tree Antiques and Gifts is all about rustic home decor and gifts. You will always find a variety of unique antiques, vintage, and new items in our shop. Come and see our selection of housewarming, new baby, and wedding gifts. For the man in your life, we have many collectibles, Boker knives, and leather. And ladies love the jewelry, purses, candles, hats, and t-shirts. We also offer a 30-day layaway program. Come and experience shopping at Willow Tree Antiques and Gifts.
Hello, I'm Tammy Benson, and this is
Nancy Bowling.
And we're here to tell you about the wonderful service at hospice and what they have to bring. From the nursing services, to the medical director, to in-home aides, to a chaplain, to bereavement, to everything you can imagine. They were there to take care of it.
I cannot think of how the experience with hospice could have been any better professionally, spiritually.
And welcome back to the RO Sports Show, brought to you by First Health Orthopedics. Now, guys, we're going to get into NASCAR like we do each and every week. We're going to hit the pavement. Russell, I'm going to come to you. First off, where were we this past weekend?
Well, we were just up the road from here in Charlotte for the All-Star race. Usually if this is NASCAR, it's like it's an exhibition race, no points. It's all about the $1 million prize. And it was certainly to nobody's surprise that Kevin Harvick was the one who walked away with that check.
Okay, so that was going to be my next question was who ended up winning. Of course, who did you have picked for it beforehand?
Kevin Harvick.
You did, so you
I think I switched it to Logano, though, just because.
Yeah, I think I gave you a little bit of grief about taking the easy win. But, of course, like we said then, he was the hot hand. And as it turned out, that stayed the same way. Of course, you put me on the spot. I took Keselowski. How did he end up doing?
He actually got involved in a wreck. I think he finished really close to last place.
Well,
he had a solid race, though. He had a solid race, so he's done pretty good. Actually, for most part of the entire race, including the Open Challenge that they had beforehand, there was a lot of solid racing happening because of the rules package. They changed it up for the All-Star race where they had restrictor plates on the 1.5 mile track, which has never been done for in NASCAR until now. And it kept the race very close, very tight. There were drivers who don't usually sit at the front. They were trying to make their way up there. It worked for AJ Allmendinger, who was running the top line really good. And eventually it costed him, but he was doing good. However, if you got somebody in the lead, they kind of stuck there for the most part. But it was a really good, solid race overall.
And just for those like myself and Bobby that don't really follow NASCAR as closely as you do, explain to the folks watching and listening what exactly restrictor plate racing is.
So restrictor plate racing is typically found on tracks like Daytona and Talladega, where they restrict how fast the car can go. And thus, everybody has kind of a equal playing ground where they can race together side by side, very close together, and you have to rely on the draft to get you to the front of the field. The draft is obviously cleaner air, and if you get close to behind the car, you don't have as much air pushing on you as you do when you're out front. So it keeps the driver in front close to the field, and the guys in the back who can have an opportunity to win the race.
So you probably tend to see more closer race finishes when it's a restrictor plate, right?
Yeah, we had a very close race actually. I think in the Open Challenge where they were really close and tight there, but a lot of the at the end of the stages are really close too. But Harvick kind of passed, I think, on the last lap and won the race himself. So it was a really tough day for Harvick, but he got the job done as he's been expected to do.
And so this is the all-star game, if you will, for NASCAR. So I know that we said that Kansas City last week was technically the halfway point. I don't know if you've got it pulled up, but as far as the point standings right now, isn't it Kevin Harvick that's leading? It's got to be, right?
Yeah, he's pretty much leading. Of course, Joey Logano, Kyle Busch, they're still hanging up there. Logano's been very consistent. Kyle Busch has been dominant as well. Martin Truex Jr. is still up there as well. A lot of the drivers you expect to see are up there, except for Jimmy Johnson, who's actually kind of hanging out, as well as Kyle Larson. And there's no Chevrolets in the top 10. It's all Toyota and Ford, so they're pretty much a dominant manufacturer this season.
Is there a reason for that? I mean, what do you think?
I think, for me personally, I think Chevrolet, they just went into the Camaro this season. They switched up from the old, I forgot which one it was. I think it was... Well, anyway, they left that one there and they went into Camaros, and I think they're trying to understand how to use that car still.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, as we do every week, moving on to the next weekend. It's the, I guess, unofficial start of the second half, but where are we headed to?
We're going to stay right here in Charlotte.
Okay.
They're going to be going for the Coca-Cola 600. It's the longest race of the season. It's a 600-mile race, a little over 340 laps, I believe. It'll start in the daytime around 6 o'clock on Sunday. And because it's Memorial Day the next day, I mean, they're going to have a night race on Sunday night. And they do a lot for the veterans that day as well. They have a support, like a salute to the troops type of event going on. It's all about them for the most part that night. And it's going to be one heck of a race, considering that these drivers have not been able to prepare for this race from the All-Star race. Because some drivers who don't do too well in the All-Star race, it's because they're trying to test something out for the Charlotte race. So this year they couldn't do that because of the different rules package. So it'll be interesting to see if someone like Kevin Harvick can still stay up front and battle like he's been, or we're going to see someone like I don't know, like a Daniel Suarez, who actually done pretty good in Charlotte race last week. See if he might be able to do something here.
So it's basically been one big party for the whole week, is what it sounds like it's going to be moving forward. Now, with all that being said, moving forward, who you got winning?
It is so hard to not go against Kevin Harvick in this situation. However, I am going to pick somebody different. I've seen a lot of potential out of Jimmy Johnson from last week. I know I shouldn't base my judgment off last week because different rules package, but Jimmy Johnson knows this track very, very well. And I could see him coming to the front and possibly winning this race. I think he's got a good solid chance. I think right around this time is when Johnson starts heating up, as well as the entire Hendrick team. This is actually the longest Johnson has gone in a season without getting a win. I think this is 13 races later. Usually it's about 12. So he's getting over that deadline. I'm sure he's going to step up a little bit and possibly win this race.
Well, don't put me on the spot again, because I'm not going to make a pick, because obviously I picked Keselowski and then he ends up wrecking and ending up near the end. So yeah, okay, fine, yeah, let's do that. Now, another famous race that's coming up is the Indy 500. So tell us a little bit about that, what all that entails.
Yeah, so Indy 500 is one of the biggest spectacles in motorsports racing. It's also right before the Coca-Cola 600. It comes on in the middle of the daytime. Usually you see NASCAR drivers and IndyCar drivers do the 1,100-mile challenge, where they'll race in the Indy race first in Indianapolis. They'll fly down to Charlotte and race in the 600.
I think Tony Stewart's done that before.
Tony Stewart, Kurt Busch is one of them as well. I think Tony Stewart might be the only one that actually completed all 1,100 miles. I think Kurt Busch wrecked out in his. I think one of the Andretti brothers actually did it as well. So it's pretty big. Nobody's doing it this year. However, there is one driver that's in NASCAR, usually associated with NASCAR. Now she's over here in IndyCar for her final race in motorsports, and that's Danica Patrick.
Yeah, so this is the end of her career?
For the foreseeable future, I don't think she's going to be doing anything, at least in the major motorsports.
Right.
But she's actually got a good, solid starting spot. I think she's starting 7th on the third row. Indy does a little bit different when they're in for the 500, where 3 cars will start on each row, not 2. So she's got a really good starting spot. She's going to be on the inside, so that's going to help her out a lot getting into this race.
Yeah, and I think having Danica Patrick in racing is good for racing.
Yeah.
And of course, outside of the racing world, she has other opportunities as well, whether it be on TV or whatever, commercials. Right. Matter of fact, she's actually going to be hosting the 2018 ESPYs this year, which is, of course, the sports award banquet on ESPN that happens during the summer.
Yeah.
So, it's those other kind of things that maybe she's going to step away from the racing world and maybe step into that world. So, of course, it'll be interesting to see what happens with her career moving forward. Is there a chance maybe she comes back?
I really don't think she will. I think, if anything, I think she has a better chance of staying in IndyCar because she had a very successful qualifying session with Indy. 7th is really good to start on, especially for the Indy 500, and just coming back in IndyCar for 4 or 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really good.
You're about to chime in with something.
I was just saying, if you're going to pick a race to retire on, why not the Indy 500?
Yeah.
That's a pretty smart move.
That's a good one to do it on. Now, speaking of retiring, people that have retired and are up for the Hall of Fame, the 2019 NASCAR Hall of Fame, they announced that yesterday, so give us the list of those guys.
Well, Jeff Gordon is obviously the one who makes it on there. There's no doubt about Jeff Gordon gets his first year being up for it, and he gets in. Also, Alan Kulwicki gets in there.
Okay.
We've also got Jack Roush, Roger Penske, and I cannot remember on the top of my head right now. I apologize. But Davey Allison got in as well. So,
okay.
Yeah, a lot of good names up there. A couple of them, they've been waiting on Kulwicki and Allison. A lot of people have been wanting them in for a long time. They finally got in. Well deserved.
So, Roush and Penske both owners, correct?
Right.
Okay. So, I know when we were talking about the names coming out, you kind of found it a little interesting that there were 2 owners?
Yeah. I would expect maybe one. I know they have had it in the past, but I really wasn't expecting it this year. To see that many get in, I figured more drivers might get in this season. But, everybody has to appreciate what Roger Penske has done for the sport and Jack Roush. Penske has well over 100 wins across NASCAR, and Roush has done so much for the sport in general with its motors and all of that stuff. So he's had a very successful career as an owner as well.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but one name I didn't hear you say was Rick Rudd.
Ricky Rudd, he didn't get in. That was one of my favorites to get in, as well as Bobby Labonte.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, they didn't get in.
Well, they only take, 5? So
5 a year,
there's only so many spaces, and of course, maybe some of these guys will get in next year.
Yeah, all of them are well deserving. It's just a matter of being able to get in.
I hate to put you on the spot, but how does NASCAR do their voting? Like, who gets in?
They have a committee for it as kind of among the active. Some of the active drivers are actually part of it, and there's also a fan vote, so the fans can vote on it as well. And one of theirs will go up as the nominee, and they'll be in.
Okay, I was curious because I knew Allison died at a young age, so I was wondering if that had something to do with it. Was it a fan vote or was it just?
He got a lot of fan votes.
Okay.
Sure, yeah. And actually was lucky enough to get his autograph long time ago when he was in Rockingham. Used to eat at a restaurant called the Little Bo Steakhouse. I don't know if either of you guys know what I'm talking about. You might, yeah. But back in the day, just real quick, a lot of the big guys would go in there and eat dinner. And, of course, if you were eating there, they'd sit down and, you can get their autograph. Awesome. So one of the cool things that Rockingham misses as far as racing. Yeah. But anyway, Rockingham racing, that's a whole other argument and debate we can have hopefully sooner rather than later. But moving on from NASCAR, of course, last week we talked about the ramifications of the Supreme Court basically coming out and saying that sports betting is now going to be legal across the United States. It'll be taken on kind of a state-by-state basis where each state can decide whether they want to go through with this or not. I think West Virginia is a state that's already stepped up. I know last week I was saying it'd be interesting to see which states start doing this.
And they're going to get that money.
They are, absolutely. But, of course, with something this monumentous, there's, of course, was going to be a little bit of fallout. So, real quick, guys, I want to just go through a couple of stories that stuck out in my mind. The NCAA has temporarily allowed states that sponsor single-game sports wagering to host championship events. Now, in the past, they didn't do this. And just a prime example, in case anybody's wondering what I'm talking about, this would allow a city like Las Vegas to be able to host a men's basketball regional or some other kind of NCAA event in the future, which hasn't been done. Do you think that maybe we're venturing too far too quickly into this, or do you think Las Vegas at this point, the stigma's gone and it should host an event like this?
When you have something sweep across the nation like that, then you're going to have states. It's basically a rush to see what can happen. And I think they're just kind of protecting themselves when they are not going to ban. They're not going to do the work for the states. In other words, they're not going to say that we're not going to have it there, and then someone like New York City starts doing that. One thing they got to be afraid of is the good that comes with it is minor sports get attention, but maybe for the wrong reason. And for the major sports might be protected from people using their money in less nefarious ways. When you get down into some of these college sports, it's going to be interesting to see what laws they put in on each state and in the book of how they can control that.
And that's kind of what I was going to ask you next, Russell, is NCAA's always been wary about sports betting and just wagering altogether when it comes to like March Madness or the Bowl Series or whatever. Allowing this, even if it's temporarily, for a city like Las Vegas to host an event, are they kind of blurring the lines here a little bit?
Yeah, I really don't agree with college sports being betted on because these are students. Not only that, they're also not getting paid to be there.
Correct.
So people are making money off of what they're doing. And if it's professional, I think it's fine, but college, I think that's a no-no.
Yeah. And I just want to read a quote from NCAA President Mark Emmert, who I've kind of got on a little bit in the past about being a little hypocritical when it comes to stuff like this. And again, they know that this stuff happens from time to time. A lot of times it feels like they sweep it under the rug. And then the NCAA president comes out and says that they're disappointed in how it happened. But his quote for this is, "Our highest priorities in any conversation about sports wagering are maintaining the integrity of competition and student-athlete well-being," which to me is lawyer talk. Same kind of stuff he's been saying over and over. "Sports wagering can adversely impact student-athletes," he went on to say, "and undermine the games they play. We are committed to ensuring that laws and regulations promote a safe and fair environment for the nearly 500,000 students who play college athletes." So, again, I mean, I'm hearing him say this, but then at the same time, I feel like opening this door to letting them host an event in Las Vegas is kind of going the other way with it, is it not?
I think we're going to be further away from a team fixing the World Series, like what started these laws to come into place, to where we're going to be looking at it. Is a student athlete at one of these colleges going to be aware of the point spread? Like, are they going to be knowledgeable that, hey, we're winning, but we're winning too much, or we're not winning enough? And because they don't have to be the one to place the bets, but they can be the ones that have effect on the game.
Yes.
So that's what I'm more curious to see how they're going to control.
And that was the next thing I wanted to talk to you guys about point shaving, and then the fact that, I mean, think of, what was his name, Tim Donaghy from the NBA, who was already convicted of manipulating games via being the referee for betting purposes. Is this a scenario later on where we see refs and umpires that can be corrupted, and next thing you know, you've got a scandal on your hands? What do you think?
Yeah,
Is that kind of where we're headed?
It can very well happen. I mean, crime activity is usually associated with gambling, and that can happen in these type of situations where an umpire will might call a strike or a ball or something like that, and it could affect the entire game for all we know.
Because people bet on ridiculous things. That's the whole thing. You could do something like how many balls are thrown this game,
right?
And then put a bet on it.
There's always a prop bet.
If it's unhedged, you can have all kinds of prop bets. It kind of opens it up where I'm curious to see how it goes, because it's easier to do now. Yeah. Like I said, it's not just in Vegas. If it's everywhere, if it's online, if it's easy access, then do you really know who's betting and how much? Or it's going to be curious to see what the laws are going to be.
And it kind of, in my opinion, I think it kind of already happens anyways, where they kind of can corrupt officials, because teams might actually pay those coaches under the table and not know anything about it. It can very well happen. I'm not saying it does, but it could happen.
I mean, you think about any sports, it's all about money.
Yep.
And if, a lot of times people will try to figure out the easiest way to make some money on the side, and I would feel like if a player or a coach or an ump or something gets in with the wrong people, all of a sudden he owes somebody $30,000 or whatever the number might be, and now all of a sudden he's put himself in a situation where he may call something one way when it should have been the other. So yeah, I'm with you guys. I'm interested to see that dynamic play out. Of course, with this whole thing, obviously they've said that it's going to be legal state by state, but there's going to be a lot of red tape and a lot of loopholes that are going to have to be jumped through before anybody's even starting to do this. Although the feeling I get is that some states want to expedite this and want to be ready come football season.
For tax reasons.
Yeah.
Immediately. And the problem that I see is, like, the smaller the program, the more likely for corruption. It might be a good way to get money for your program.
Yeah.
Is actually start throwing bets around.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the states on that level, of course they want the income. They want the money moving.
Right.
Because everywhere time money moves and exchange hands, there's another time to tax it.
Yeah.
Another chance to tax it.
And that was, to me, that was one of the main reasons why this even happened, because And not to get off on a completely different tangent, but I compare it to medical marijuana, where once states figure out how much money they can make off of it, you'll see more and more and more states in addition to the ones that already allow it. And then, of course, you'll see it federally, because then the federal government will figure out they can get their take on it, too. I look at this kind of the same way, where states are thinking we can make billions of extra dollars off of this waging system and, spend it on maybe some positive things, though, on the other side of it. I said this last week, infrastructure for your states, education, paying teachers more, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But, again, it's a giant Pandora's box that's now been opened, and I'm sure you guys agree with me. It's going to be interesting to see what all happens moving forward with sports betting. But that's going to do it for that, and when we come back from the break, we're going to finish the show, as we always do, with the Big Impact of the Week presented by Richmond Community College, and, of course, Love It or Hate It, all that and more. We come right back from the RO Sports Show. And welcome back to the RO Sports Show. As always, brought to you by First Health Orthopedics. And it was hot in the studio, guys. I had to come out of the jacket, so roll the sleeves up. So in case you're wondering if I had some kind of wardrobe malfunction, I did not. It's just it's getting hot in here.
But you've been here about all day today. You live at 5 earlier.
I know. It's part of the Triple Thursday.
Yeah.
By the way, if you watched, I'll just throw this out there while we're talking about it. If you watched Live at 5 before us today, this was actually, as you know by now, the 200th episode. So we made it 200 episodes on Live at 5. Hopefully, we'll be able to go 200 right here on the sports show. That'd be cool. Of course, that might take us a little while. But I'm here for the long haul, just like I'm sure you guys are.
I think it's like 52 weeks in a year, right?
Yeah.
So about 4 years from now.
Yeah. And either that or we're like sponsored by some big Gatorade or something by then, and we can just kind of do what we want.
Get that money.
Yeah, that's right. But as we always end the show, we're going to start our last segment with our Big Impacts of the Week. Of course, presented to you by Richmond Community College, whose motto is Local College, Big Impact. So let's start with you, Russell. Who's your big impact of the week?
Well, I've got a Raiders softball player, Grayson Way, who shut down some no-name team from Hickory.
Hickory Ridge, I think.
Yeah, I think it was. She shut them down. No hitter. Beat them 7-0. Go Raiders! Y'all doing great this season.
Yeah, and that's awesome. In the 4th round of the playoffs. Yeah. No hitting people. So
they're about to go close to the state championship.
That's right. Definitely big impact there. So who you got this week, Jeremy?
Congratulations to Richmond County native and Clemson alumni Tyrone Crowder, who has been invited to Cincinnati's rookie camp. He also won a national title with Clemson a couple of years ago.
That's right. Yeah, was in a national championship, played in one more, I think, and also made an additional Final Four there for that. So definitely had a prolific career. And of course, we wish nothing but the best for Tyrone. And then my big impact for this week, keeping the local love going, 3-sport athlete Kenzie Webb has earned the valedictorian honor for this year's class of 2018, which is going to be graduating here in just a couple of short weeks. Soccer player Shelby Matheson is right behind her as the salutatorian. Both of them are going to be attending UNC in the fall, so they're going to be future Tar Heels, and of course congratulations to them for getting the valedictorian and salutatorian honor. Now, moving on, some more local love, as we always like to follow that up with, is our Richmond County Official Athletes of the Week, brought to you by McNair Auto Sales. And who we've got this week is a couple of softball players, one of which you just mentioned, who is Grayson Way, a junior softball player who, as you just mentioned, completed that no-hitter in the 4th round of the playoffs. This is her 2nd time earning this award. In addition to her is her fellow teammate Owen Bowers, the senior softball player for the Lady Raiders. This is also her second time winning the award. She was also featured in November for volleyball and for signing her letter of intent to play softball at Florida Southwestern State College in Fort Myers. So congratulations to them, our official Richmond County Athletes of the Week. And then another thing we started doing here is our RO Sports Show Facebook poll. And I want to start off by saying that we now have an official RO Sports Show Facebook page. So make sure to go on Facebook.
Go like it.
Find us and like us. And you'll be able to get all the videos that you see here in addition to polls, opinions.
Tell us what you think. Yeah.
All kinds. Give us feedback. So all kinds of cool stuff, local and national sports. Now, this past week, we were talking about the sports betting scenario, and we put up, now that the Supreme Court has legalized sports betting on a state-by-state basis, should North Carolina allow it locally? Why or why not? This was actually pretty close. We had 63 people vote in this, which is a lot.
Yeah.
And it actually came down to 56% said yes, 44% said no. Now, the comments on these were half the fun. Although I can't read all of these because all of a sudden we started moving into a legalized marijuana kind of campaign that started up here. But just a couple of here that we can read. Someone put legal or not. It hasn't slowed things at all. More money made or lost at the Super Bowl than anything in this country. And then Jerry Tilley put, why the hell not? This is America. So just a couple of the comments that were put on there. And again, we're going to continue to do the RO Sports Show Facebook poll each week, so be on the lookout for that on the Richmond Observer's Facebook page, but now more specifically on the RO's Sports Show's Facebook page as well. Now, same way we end every show, guys, let's get into Love It or Hate It. And we're going to start off with some football. So Terrell Owens, we all know him. Some of us love him, some of us hate him. But he has come out and said that it, quote, doesn't make sense for Jason Garrett to still have the job as the Dallas Cowboys head coach. Now, real quick here, Garrett and the Cowboys have only reached the playoffs twice since he's been the coach. He has a 68-55 record since he took over in 2010. Not bad, not great, but should Terrell Owens, is he right about this? Should Jason Garrett still have his job? Love it or hate it?
I say love it. You know, he got something to prove that, you know, I give him a benefit of the doubt. Let him see what happens next season. If he don't do his job, then I think Jerry Jones needs to show him the door.
All right, what you think? Terrell Owens saying this, love it or hate it?
I'm loving it because I think he's right. I mean, only 2 playoff appearances in, what was that, 8 years?
Yeah, in 8 years, 8 seasons, yeah.
That's very ridiculous.
I'm right there with you guys. I'm not a big T.O. fan, but I think he's kind of right. You look back and it's like Jerry Jones has fired a lot of guys for less than this. How does this guy still have his spot? Although I will say this, he is now the Cowboys' second longest tenured coach and their second winningest coach behind Tom Landry. So, but that's more of age. He's just been there so long thing, I think, on top of all of that. So, moving on, looking at some basketball, the Atlantic Coast Conference is going to propose expanding the NCAA tournament from 68 teams to 72 teams, and you would have, instead of a first four, you'd have 2 sets of first fours. Love it or hate it?
I love it. Give the colleges a chance to compete for a championship.
All right.
I'm actually going to go on the flip side here and say hate it because I think it's already big enough. And if you can't be better than 64 other teams, you shouldn't be in.
I'm right there with you. I hate it. To me, I wrote an article about this in my column. What's the difference between 68 and 72? I mean, you can put 164 teams in there, and there's still going to be 4 teams outside of that to say we deserve to be in. So no matter how far out you stretch it, I just think right now 68 is plenty.
There is an argument there for it, though, where, you know, take who was that team that beat Virginia? I forgot their names already.
Oh, UMBC.
Yeah, I mean, you know, they kind of had a good argument themselves, but again, I think...
Yeah, but they were a 16 seed. I mean, they got in kind of fair and square, winning their conference. But I just... it's all about money. That's what this boils down to.
Yes.
And again, they'll probably keep bumping it up as long as more teams means more money. So, moving on to baseball, the Tampa Bay Rays have done something a little unconventional when it comes to pitching. They've started their reliever, who is their closer, Sergio Romo. They started him versus the Angels for 2 straight games. Not something you really see a whole lot, but love it or hate it?
I love it. Give him a chance.
All right.
Yeah, I say love it.
Yeah, I'm going to you guys need to watch more baseball. I'm going to
How
say
about the Braves, though? How about the Braves this season?
I like this because it's different. You see the game of baseball evolving all the time.
Yeah.
This is another way that you're seeing that, like with shifts on defense, how that used to never be a thing, and now everybody shifts. I don't know that this will catch on, but the way that pitching is now as opposed to even 10 years ago has completely changed in how they do it. So I like trying something new. Now, Johnny Manziel, who I kind of Freudian slipped earlier, but Johnny Manziel's back in the news. He is officially signed with the Canadian Football League's Hamilton Tiger Cats. Love it or hate it?
I love it. This is an opportunity for him to resurrect his career, and he does well. Then the NFL team can look at him and say, "Give him a call. Hey, come try out."
Yeah. Oh, that'd be fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I love it. I feel like Johnny Manziel's already kind of pissed his career away. That's why he's in the Canadian Football League. But, I mean, maybe he, like you said, maybe he can resurrect it. It's always going to depend on whether the boy can stay out of trouble because
that part
you can get in trouble in Canada just as easily as you can in America. So we'll have to see.
You're right.
If he can stay out of jail or stay off the drugs or whatever it may be. But, again, I'm hoping for success for him. Another quarterback is Alabama's Tua Tagovailoa, and we're going to bring him up again because he says he would have transferred if he hadn't played in the title game. Of course, as we know now, he did. Ended up winning it for him. But imagine a scenario where he didn't get in and transferred. Love it or hate it. After you're done.
Go ahead, right quick. Go ahead.
Well, personally, I think I would hate that he would leave. I understand why he would want to because, if you're not getting playing time, you're going to go somewhere that will give you playing time.
Sure.
I think that makes sense. But I think Tua made the right choice to stay. Obviously, he got a title game under his belt where he won it. And I think he could find himself starting a few times next season.
I agree. What do you think?
Actually become the overall starter.
Okay.
I'm going to say love it because for the simple fact reason is, for him to just play in the national championship and not, and there's another area where I say hate it because if you didn't, they didn't put you in the title game, you would transfer, get more playing time, but.
Well, let me ask you this. What happens if Jalen Hurts starts the season and never gives up the role? Does Tua threaten this again?
I think personally that it will have to come down to who's better quarterback. I don't think Hurts is going to hold it down. I think Saban is going to see that he can use both these quarterbacks, and Saban is good.
So you see a scenario where they both flip
dual
flop.
quarterback,
a two quarterback system.
One of the best things Saban's good at is using two of the same position.
Sure, and I know we've talked about it before. Even if they not even play in the same game, but start one week, another the next week, but you don't let your opponent know till
game time.
Game time. So
that's what they did a few years ago with I can't remember who they were, but it was two of them there that he had that nobody knew who it was going to be until right there at the time when they faced West Virginia.
Now, something that came out in the news just yesterday, the NFL owners have met, as they do during this time of the year, to talk about potential rule changes, those sorts of things. Of course, big in the news the last couple of years, not only in the world of football, but it made it all this way to the White House, was players kneeling for the national anthem. Of course, we know Donald Trump got his 2 cents in about that. And, different people feel different ways about this. We're not trying to make this political, but NFL teams and owners decided that they will fine players if they kneel during the national anthem. Now, they have the ability to stay in the locker rooms if they want to, but being able to fine a player or a team for taking a knee during the national anthem, love it or hate it.
Go Russell, because it's kind of like.
I think I heard you guys the other morning talking about this on Good Morning Sandhills.
We did.
I kind of hate this because I feel like it is restricting a freedom of speech. I understand that this is like a work environment for them, and they're getting to use their influence or whatever, but they're still American citizens. I still think they should be able to have that freedom to express that right there.
Okay.
I'm going to go on a limb and say I hate this thing because
I don't think that's much of a limb, but yeah.
Sorry, I hate this because I feel like what Russell said a few minutes ago. I think this is a scenario where you have a right. You got every right to feel what you feel and express how you want to express. But you're taking away people's freedom of speech and their freedom of how they want to, pretty much how they feel about daily life. And
I was just going to say, I completely agree with you guys. I don't like the fact, first of all, this is going to open up Pandora's box.
Yeah.
I mean, I really can't believe they're even going to do this, but.
Even a 15-yard, and then I mentioned, I think they have a 15-yard penalty for it.
Well, that was the first proposal.
Yes.
And they turned that down and then decided that they would fine teams instead. But you
I've
guys
heard similar in NASCAR. Joe Gibbs has actually came out before when it first all kind of surfaced up to the. Joe Gibbs has said if anybody did not stand up for a national anthem at a race, he would have them fired.
Yeah, and I mean, look, there's two sides of this coin. The owners pay their salaries. If they say you have to stand and you don't, then they reserve the right to dock your pay or cut you. I mean, when you stand up for something like this, you should be allowed to do it, but you also have to take the consequences that come with it. If there are some.
Said, didn't he?
Yeah,
because even with Jerry Jones, he came out with Jerry Jones from Dallas. He made a comment last season, and he told his players, if anybody kneels during the national anthem, I will cut you right then.
Yeah,
because I mean, you still have that freedom to do it. You still gotta understand there's gonna be consequences.
Even with the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive tackle Alessandro Villanueva, him and James Harrison, before he was cut, they stayed in the locker room.
Yeah. But I mean, the whole point for Kaepernick, who obviously started all this 2 years ago, was to do it on the field, because if he had to stay in the locker room and kneels, nobody's going to see that.
Somebody might think, oh, he's getting his gear together still.
Well, it's not even that. It's just nobody would see it. It would defeat the whole purpose of doing this for social inequality and social injustice and police brutality, or whatever the cause may be. I just... there's two sides of it. I don't know what the big answer is, but there's some people that say, well, they're there to play football. We don't care what their political opinions are. Yeah, well, guess what? Plenty of people give their political opinions, and other people could give a rat's you know what. I mean, it's not about that. It's about the fact that this is America. You have the right to your opinion, and you have the right to be able to express that.
Yes.
And if it doesn't impede on anyone else's life or their well-being, why do you even care?
Yeah.
And I think what happened was, and I'm kind of getting into a rant here, but what happened was it became this narrative where kneeling for the national anthem meant that you were anti-military and anti-American flag and anti-American, which obviously, if that's what you thought was the case, then you missed the entire point of the movement.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously I get a little fired up about it because, again, this is America. You have rights to be able to do this, whether it's on a football field or whether it's in the White House or anywhere in between. You should be able to do that here in this country. So
that's right.
I just absolutely hate this, and I'm hoping that they'll get so much negative feedback from this that maybe they'll eventually just let it phase out or something.
Yeah.
But we're going to end it on something that we love to talk about, professional wrestling. WWE, of course, WWE SmackDown is going to be moving to Fox starting October.
It's still a rumor, though.
Still a rumor.
But it sounds like it's very
will
strong.
potentially be moving to Fox starting October 2019 on a 5-year, $1 billion deal.
Woo!
So love it or hate it.
For me personally, I love this, and I'll give you some reasons why. One, Friday Night SmackDown is back. It'll still be live, from my understanding, and I believe I was talking about moving it to 3 hours as well.
Right.
Also, as a kid, I grew up watching it as a Friday Night SmackDown. When you're a kid, you got school nights.
Right.
And if it's on a Monday Night Raw, you can't watch that all the way because you got bedtime. Friday night, you got all night. You can watch the whole show. That's going to be great for the kids and for people who has work the next day. They don't have to go to bed early Friday night.
Sure.
Also, it's going to local Fox channels, not like Fox FS1 or something like that. It's going to regular Fox. So that allows for people who has over-the-air antenna to actually be able to watch it and be able to keep in check with that. So I love it because more people are going to get to watch it now, and it's going to be a lot more fun.
And not only will they be able to watch more on TV, but because it's on a weekend night, you'll be able to go to it more often because you don't have to get up in the morning. What do you think, Jeremy? Love it or hate it?
I love it because Friday Night SmackDown is back.
I mean, I think that... First of all, I was a little surprised with how much money this went for, assuming that this goes through. I mean, $1 billion for only 5 years, that's big-time TV money. I mean, that's what you see for, like, not necessarily NFL, but maybe hockey or MLB. They're paying these kinds of exorbitant numbers for TV rights.
I think this was Fox's plan, though. After they sold all the other stuff to Disney, I think they were going to seriously invest in this because everybody should know right now that USA is going to expire their plan next year in February with SmackDown. I'm not sure. SmackDown. I'm not sure about
SmackDown. Okay.
I'm not sure about Raw yet, but I imagine Fox, if they give an opportunity, they will take it.
Absolutely.
They might have to move it though because of Monday Night Football. I don't know who does that right now, but
that's ESPN.
Yeah, so they might be able to have that to compete with them on that.
Sure.
Well, I don't think you take Monday Night Raw with USA. They're not going anywhere no time soon.
Well, I mean, if money talks,
money's
somebody,
right.
Yeah, I'm just
ponies up
saying.
the
Yeah,
money, they'll
I mean
move.
when they went to TNE.
They'll move very quickly. Do you think that if this happens, if and when this happens, we'll see just a straight brand cut where you'll have Raw talent and you'll have SmackDown talent, which is one of the reasons why they'll go to 3 hours instead of everybody being on 2 shows?
Well, they kind of already doing that now. Since 2016, they've had a brand split. And I know now they kind of bring back the pay-per-views where they're both on the same pay-per-view now. They don't have split pay-per-views anymore. But I think if they move it to a 3-hour show, they can have more character development. Because right now, SmackDown is kind of hurting in that they have great characters there, but they can really only have time for like maybe 4 matches out of the entire show. This previous Tuesday night, SmackDown had a 30-minute match between The Miz and I think it was Big E. So, I mean, they don't really have enough time for that. So Raw has plenty of time for that because it's 3 hours. I think SmackDown can definitely benefit from a 3-hour show. I know it will get exhausting for some people, but I think that's the best thing about being between Monday and Friday. You got that break.
In there, and I feel like the roster has so many talented people on it right now, men and women, that you can spread it out across both Raw and SmackDown and make both of them 3 hours and still have enough content to fill both shows.
And of course, NXT down there, they're always pumping out.
Yeah, just feeding talent. Yeah, absolutely. So. Again, $1 billion is a lot, but I mean, I was thinking that UFC. Bobby was talking about earlier when he was here that UFC sold off, or Fox sold off UFC, who's now signed a similar deal with ESPN. So essentially, Fox is kind of trading UFC for WWE, which I found kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm. But next week now, I will have some footage from SmackDown Live next Tuesday. I'm going to it. I'm going to Raleigh. Yeah, I'm going to Raleigh.
Well, there we go. So you heard it here first. We'll have some up close and personal footage from SmackDown. Yeah. Got to make sure to get Nakamura's entrance.
Oh yeah, well they just announced that there's going to be a last man standing match between Bobby Roode won't be there. He's on Raw now. But Nakamura and AJ Styles are going to have a last man standing match for the WWE Championship.
Thank you.
Awesome.
That's going to be awesome.
That will be awesome. So yeah, make sure to get some footage or at least get some pictures.
Yeah.
And on the footage, I want to hear you singing along and stuff. So
I'm going to try and see if I can get Becky Lynch to say something for us for the intro of the show. If I can, I'm going to see if that happens.
That would be awesome.
So.
Take your credentials with you.
Yeah.
And wear your shirt. You know, whatever you need to do to make her know that that would be really cool for her to do. But that's going to do it for this edition of the RO Sports Show. And, of course, let me run through all the ways you can watch and listen to us. You've got the Richmond Observer app, the Richmond Observer website, the Richmond Observer Facebook page, the Richmond Observer YouTube page, and now specifically, as I mentioned earlier, but want to remind you again, the RO Sports Show now has its own specific Facebook page, so make sure to go on to Facebook, find us, and like us, and you can see all the videos, all the polls, whatever kind of nonsense sports-wise we put up there.
So many ways to watch it.
So many ways, and of course, Jeremy, what is
excuse.
it?
It's free.
It's all free. So for Jeremy McKenzie, Russell Parker, I'm Matt Harrelson. We'll see you right back again here next week at 5:30 on Thursday nights. Have a great week.